Good morning, everybody. It's a little early, and I can see that we've already got somebody on here. Let's see, Shannon. Good morning. Hi, happy Sunday. So I just thought I would go ahead, like I have before, and just chat and give a few reminders. So we are going to be finishing up the petals this morning. So I think we're going to be able to do it in 3 hours. If not, I will go ahead and stream again next Saturday. So anyhow, yesterday morning I made a huge mistake, and I'm so sorry. I know this sounds like an excuse, but I'm doing this all by myself. So when I posted the link on my watercolor website, I actually didn't link it, which is terrible. So I've got it linked, and I'm making sure that I write down just a list of everything I need to do before I stream. So I really apologize for that. I know a lot of people had problems linking it from my website, but I did post the link on Facebook on my business page and my Watercolors That Glow group page. So hopefully everybody can find it. But I do know that if you are subscribed to this YouTube channel, that it will notify you. So, and hopefully everybody can hear me well. It looks like my external mic is working well. Okay, just wanted to give a big apology for that. Every single time I stream or I film a tutorial, I learn. It would be nice to have a huge production company that just took care of everything on the back end, but I don't. And so I'm learning. And hopefully it'll get to the point where I won't have a whole lot of glitches here and there, or at least my mistakes. So anyhow, yesterday morning, I did not talk about everything to get ready. So, and I know that I did that in my other live streams. First thing, make sure that you have your watercolor paper prepped and ready to go. And I did talk about that a little bit yesterday. Just make sure you have it on a gator board, which is a foam core center, and it's got like almost like a melamine front and back. And it's very, very hard. It's like a really light wood, but you can cut it. And you can see that I've cut this one down so that it's actually just a square. You don't have to use gator board, but make sure you use something that is very firm. Let's see, foam core would also work if it's the really thick foam core. If it's the thin foam core, as you add water, it will bend. And of course, I mount my 300-pound watercolor paper to my gator board. And what I do on the back side around the edge, everywhere around the edge, is I roll up a piece of masking tape. I just roll it into a tube and I attach it to the back so that it will hold fast right to my gator board. And then I go ahead and tape it all the way around the outside. Most of the time I don't use the white artist tape. Most of the time I use just regular old masking tape. I have never had a problem with masking tape ripping up my good paper. But I use Arches 300-pound. And I've never had masking tape rip ever. But either way, whether or not you use the masking tape or the artist tape, don't use colored tape. I've seen a lot of beginning students using the blue painter's tape. Don't do that. Your eyes are going to get used to seeing that blue, and it's going to affect how you see the colors on your paper. So whatever you use to tape it down, just make sure it's very neutral. Like, again, either the artist tape or the masking tape. So let's see. Shannon says, I use a plastic board. Yeah, that's fine. Anything, any surface that's just really firm. As long as the plastic is really light, I find that anything really heavy, it's just really easy to knock things around on my table. So I tend to be a little klutzy. So, yeah, that's why I use the Gator board. It's, believe it or not, it's relatively inexpensive. And it lasts forever. As long as you take care of it, it lasts for a really long time. I've had some of my Gator board for probably about, 10 years or so. So yeah, so that is really, really important. Preparing your paper to paint is part of that foundation. It's part of making sure that everything that you do from that point on, you're setting yourself up for success. So make sure that you have your paper down really well. And if you use 140 pound, make sure you either stretch it or you use oh my gosh, what am I trying to think of? The watercolor block. So Shannon, it's yards, it's yard sale plastic board. Whatever works and whatever you can save money with. So good idea. And then, okay, so I've just talked about tape, and we've kind of brushed a little bit again on paper. I use 300 pound Arches bright white cold press paper. It's kind of like that Goldilocks, just that sweet spot. It's not too rough. It's not too smooth. It has a nice tooth on it, yet you can still get in fine details. So I really, really, really like 300 pound paper. And especially if you're going to do a lot of layering and you are going to be adding a lot of color and adding a lot of water, I don't ever feel like I get the same effects with the 140 pound paper that I do with the 300 pound paper. So, and of course my paint, I always use professional watercolor paint. Just remember, you are never going to save money using cheap student grade paint, cheap paper. You're just going to go through it like crazy. The difference between the student grade paper, the student grade paint and the artist grade paint is the amount of pigment that they put into the paint. So the student grade paint, you're going to use a lot of it, and you're never going to get that good saturation that you want with the artist grade paint. So really, really, really try to buy quality paint. And if you're painting with a limited palette like I do, you can more afford to get the better paints because you're just using a few simple paints instead of using 30 paints on your palette. So really think carefully about that. That is part of the foundation of your painting. So, and your image, that is so important. Drawing out that image carefully. You're better off having too many lines than not enough. You can always take the lines out. It's very hard to add them back in when you start painting. And trust me when I say, most watercolor artists will tell you, because when you're adding layer after layer and you're adding water, sometimes things get harder to see. So you want to get nice lines. You want to get plenty of lines. Make sure that you have a good drawing. Check it out carefully before you start painting, and you're really going to see a difference with your painting. Which leads to my next, my biggest, this is what I talk about all the time, is what you use to draw your image out. And I use a digital projector. And I have free tutorials you can watch where I explain all about a digital projector, but my gosh, is it ever a game changer. I end up making just beautiful drawings. And of course, and I'm going to say this again, and I will fight anybody on it. This is a hill I will die on. Don't ever let anybody tell you that it's cheating to use a projector a light table, even an analog projector where it can project onto a wall, where you put your image onto the actual projector and then project it. Don't ever let anybody tell you that that's cheating. It absolutely is not cheating. Artists from the late 15th century were looking for ways to get more and more detail into their paintings, and I can guarantee you any artist that is well known from the late 14th century and on used some form of camera obscura and camera lucida to get their images onto either the canvas or the wall or whatever have you that they were painting on. So don't ever let anybody tell you that that's cheating. It absolutely is not. In fact, I would challenge anybody that says that is cheating to use it, draw it out, and then paint if they haven't built up the skills to paint. So yes, that is very important. And somebody saying, oh, congratulations, Debbie. I'm pretty sure you're talking about the fact that, oh my gosh, I won first place in the Women in Watercolor International Competition for still life and floral. Yeah, I won first place. It was when I was scrolling through and I saw that, I almost couldn't believe it. It was wow. I actually got a little dizzy. I couldn't believe that. There are so many talented and wonderful women artists out there, just artists in general. And wow, I was just amazed that I won that. And also a prize, which was awesome. I mean, I don't think we should have to be so pretentious that I can't say, I won $1,000 on my painting. It was pretty amazing. So I woke up this morning and I just felt like this was going to be a great day. And I just feel utterly full of joy. All these years of my hard work and my really concentrating on painting with 3 pigments. And the fact that I won for that really, to me, validates that it is a legitimate and it's a great way to paint. You are building value and harmony in your paintings. And I'm not saying that it has to be just 3 colors. I do occasionally add in another color if it's a very complicated painting. But yeah, it just really validates for me that what I am teaching and what I am so passionate about has paid off. And Shannon, let's see. I grew up believing if I couldn't sit at a canvas and just draw off the top of my head, I wasn't a real artist. Who knew you could learn? I wish I'd tried before my mid-40s to give it a go. Yes. You know what, Shannon? Drawing and sketching is completely different from painting. And again, that's a hill I am going to die on. I feel like my paintings are spectacular. I do know how to draw. I used to do art shows with my drawings, but I'm just out with this. I actually don't enjoy sketching, and I really don't enjoy drawing anymore. And you know, you don't have to be the spectacular, have these spectacular skills to draw. You absolutely do not. You can paint and you can get that image down. And I guarantee you, if those great masters were still alive today, they would look at a digital projector and gone, awesome, I'm using that. So yeah, I can't believe how many people don't paint because they can't draw. It's just very sad. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay to use a digital projector. It's okay to project it onto a wall. It is certainly okay to use a light table. Use whatever you can to get your image onto your paper. And Supaja, they should pay more. Thank you. I'm just happy for that. Wow. I saw that yesterday and I was like, wow, that's just, I'm so happy. So thanks to everybody for your congratulations. I just feel like it's just so uplifting today, and I just feel refreshed. this morning, and hopefully my joy is going to translate to the painting that we're working on. And Sherry says, I can so relate. I didn't start painting until age 57. Drawing just stressed me out. Oh, isn't that just really sad? Wow. And think of all the people out there that could be these fantastic artists, and the one thing that's stopping them is drawing. I'm really sad for anybody. So again, I'll die on this hill. I'll fight anybody about this. Get out that projector. Buy that projector. It makes a huge difference. And I know a lot of well-known artists, well-known watercolor artists, and they all use some form of a projector. Some of them that are well-known will still do the old school version of using transfer paper and yeah, to get it onto their boards. And that was how I started. And boy, what a game changer. And I don't know honestly what I would do without my digital projector. So they are a lot more reasonable. Kodak has a good one, and ViewSonic has a good one. Kodak has a lower end one that's about, I think, $100. Of course, with everything going up in price, it might be a little bit more now. But you might find that you paint more often and your paintings really improve. So check those out. And maybe after we're done with this, if you haven't seen my links before, I will add a link for that. So, and oh, Shannon is on here too. So boy, we have a lot of Shannelins and Shannons. And my friend Shannon, good morning. Congrats again, my sweet friend. Thank you, Shannon. I woke up this morning just so, it is honestly a great feeling when you work hard and you get recognition for something that you're just passionate about. And even if you don't get recognition, just the fact that you get better and better and better and you learn more is so important. So everybody, I just want to tell you as we're finishing this up, keep working, keep it up. And practice. My gosh, I can't tell you how important practicing is. I've thrown away a lot of paintings. I keep saying that, and you just have to keep up. So, yay, Sherry! I invested in a little digital projector and it changed my world. Yes, good for you. It's an absolute game changer. You quickly are able to get the image onto the paper. And here's something else it does too, is it makes it so that you're not erasing and erasing and erasing. And pretty soon you get so frustrated by that point that it's just, you just want to give up, rip the paper up and just go, I can't do this. So, Jupeja, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. My paintings improved so much when I started to use an iPad. I make a drawing first or outline the photo. Before I would always mess up a sketch, especially proportions. Yep, me too. I would sketch over and over and over again. And it was just like, I just want a better way to do this. Yeah, love my digital projector. And Sherry, you deserve it so much, Debbie. You are so kind and humble. It's a delight to see you win big. Thank you, Sherry. In some ways it kind of feels like I'm bragging, but I just am excited and I'm happy. It was just, I saw that and wow. And what a great way to start today too. I'm full of joy and I really feel like towards the end of this, we're going to really get this painted well. And I feel like I had a good start yesterday. Everything just seemed to go well, except for, and if nobody showed up when I first started talking, I apologize for not actually linking the link. I kind of forgot to do that. And I said in my defense, this is it. I am the production department, the editing department, the studio. I'm everything. I don't have anybody helping me. So I forgot to do that and I apologize. Now it's linked and I tested it and it does work. So sorry for that. you know, it's that whole technical end. Things still get, I still forget things. I'm doing better about writing down a list of every step I need to do. So hopefully by the time I really get going on these live streams and my tutorials, things will get a little bit better as I'm learning too. So, and Sherry, you are celebrating your win. Thank you. Thank you. It's an awesome feeling. And then Shannon, okay, I think the process of tracing or drawing from a projection is also part of really becoming familiar with your subject. You really have to identify what you are looking at. Thank you everybody for pointing these things out. Sometimes I don't think about them as I am talking, but Shannon is absolutely correct. You are so intense getting right up by that paper, and you're just really looking at every part. And as you're looking at every part of that image, you are putting that in the back of the head, in your head, and you're thinking, I have to remember this. Look at the light in this area. Ooh, look at these dark lines right here. As I'm painting, I've got to remember these areas. Not just remember, you're also looking at your image, but there's something about drawing and tracing around that image that makes a huge difference. So, and Tanya, beautiful mechanical pencil. Yes, I was also going to mention that. Yes, let me grab it real quick. Shannon's beautiful mechanical pencil. And even if you aren't lucky enough to get one of these gorgeous pencils, mechanical pencils are great because you don't have to constantly be sharpening. And what I do is I use an HB lead. That's the Goldilocks lead. It's not too hard and it's not too soft. So a few paintings back, I made a huge mistake and thought, you know what? I'm going to get like a 4H pencil, which is towards the harder leads. Oh my gosh. And what happens is you have to press a little bit harder, but I thought, ooh, I won't have to erase lines because they're going to be light. Oh my gosh, what a terrible mistake I made. What happens is it indents the paper and now you have a line. So yeah. I went back to HB and now I just roll off some of that graphite when I'm getting ready to do that area. So mechanical pencils are awesome. And let's see. Yeah, and thank you, Tanya, on your congratulations to me. Thank you. And Lisa, easy to get on this AM, all learners. Yes. Lisa, I hope you saw my apologies. Well, I put the link there. I just didn't link it. Oh gosh, I'm so embarrassed, but now I have that down. That's a mistake I'm not going to repeat, and so it's there now. And Lisa, I keep looking at my piece and I can't believe I did this in watercolor. Oh, I can't wait to see it. I'm so excited for you. Good, a good win for you too. And Sherry, I would really like a recommendation for a tabletop stand for my projector that I can point it down to my table so I don't have to do my line drawing on the wall. Yes, okay, so it's not even quite 9 yet. So let me, I'm unhooking my microphone. Let me go get it real quick. Okay, let me get myself hooked back up here. Okay, let me back up a little bit here. You can see this. This is the tabletop stand from Artograph. This is actually extremely heavy. It sits right on your table, and as you can see, I have this aimed down. You can adjust it. You can project onto a wall, down on your tabletop. I think this runs about $125, and as you can see here on the necks, it's adjustable and it can go up, I think, 4 feet, maybe a little bit taller, but I love this thing. Yeah, so it just sits right here, and then you can twist and you can adjust it to however you need it. So I love this. It's very important. You can get it through the Artograph website, but I will post a link. If you look online, there's a lot of places that sell it. Okay, so let me get this out of the way. Okay, so yeah, that thing is awesome. I love it. And you can move it around and you can keep it set up on another table if you want. So there you go, the Artograph desktop stand for your projector, and it will work with any projector. Let's see. I sometimes write where my shadows go. Shannon. Okay. That's a good idea, actually. You know, you're going to be painting over them, and if you get enough dark value, you know, you're not going to see that. So that was a good idea. Link worked. I got on quickly today. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to keep mentioning how I totally messed that up. Yeah, you have to link the link to get it to work. Oh my goodness. Okay. Can we purchase the pencils, Shannon? I'd love one. Oh, that's so cool. They're so beautiful. Yeah, they should sell them. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to show it again. Oh, and it just feels so wonderful in your hand. And you just turn the end and your lead comes out. Oh my gosh, I just absolutely love this thing. It's beautiful. Let's see. Shupeja, we need this pencil. Yes, it's beautiful. Sherry, thank you. Good morning, Amalia. Congrats, Debbie. Yeah, I was just talking about that. Thank you, everybody. What a great feeling it is. And I actually feel really ready to go on this. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see how everybody's paintings turned out. So I'm gonna head face down now. It's 9 o'clock. Make sure we can see everything. Let's see, there we go. So we can see how everything looks. And I am so happy with how, let me grab one of my paintbrushes. I'm really happy with how everything turned out right here. I feel like if you look at the image right there, you can see that I kept the values the same, and it's got the shadow on the side here, but this shadow isn't too dark. It's just, those values are just where they should be for this blossom. What would you call that? A blossom, a pod. Hasn't quite opened yet. And I haven't really done anything more than I had done yesterday. I did kind of fill in this leaf a little bit, but honestly, I feel like I really nailed all of the values on here. You can see I've got some really light areas where the light is catching on these edges, and then I've got plenty of dark areas. And there's actually a little bit of the red in those areas that is reflecting from the flower. And this again really starts talking about look at your image, really study your image. And when you are tracing, again, just like Shannon pointed out, you are really seeing everything that's going on. You're paying attention to the values. You're paying attention to whether something is very unsaturated, meaning a very dull color, or a very saturated color, meaning a very bright color. And please don't confuse a dull color with a muddy color. Those are two different things. Muddy just means, well, just like it sounds, it's muddy. And again, you've probably heard me mention this in my other tutorials. It's actually extremely hard to create mud with transparent colors, with 3 transparent colors that go together. And let me get this back over here so we can see the color. I'm using colors that I know go well together, and I know that no matter how much I mix them, they are not going to create mud. Mud usually happens too when you're using opaque colors. It's just the worst way to start out in painting, which is funny because that's how most people teach when you're painting, is because opaque colors do not stain and they're transparent, which that's actually how you want to learn. You end up with these beautiful glowing colors. I mean, really, look at all the gorgeous greens, all the different greens that we made, all from mixing up these 3 colors. So that's why, to me, it's really important to start out with transparent staining colors. So, okay, I think I'm ready to go ahead and start painting. I am going to pull up my image here. All right, I did look at this a little bit before we started, so that I can figure out, again, if I'm going to go petal by petal, and I honestly really think that that's the best way to go on this. And one of the reasons why is because when you really look at the image, and hopefully everybody took my advice and you were able to download that image, put it off on your screen. There's one learner on here. I think her name is Shannon. Is it Bolasig? Can't remember, but she actually posted a picture on Instagram about how she had the image up on her screen, and then she had a beautiful setup. I was really proud of how she set everything up. But you really should have something that you can look at on either your phone, your iPad, printing it out, or on your computer screen. That really helps you see all those colors. So yeah, and again, I only have that image up on my screen, so you can kind of get a reference as you're watching me paint. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to start down again on this petal right here. Let me pull it up a little bit more on my screen so I can see it. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take it a little bit easy. I'm just going to ease into this, and I'm going to start out with some yellow. So I'm going to get some clean yellow. And again, if you're having trouble keeping your yellow clean, there's nothing wrong with putting it on a different palette and just keep it off to the side. Yellow is one of those colors that can get dirty really quick. So that will help keep it clean. Okay, I actually need a little bit of that blue in that. I am looking down at this area right here where I see that little stripe right down the center. It actually gets a little green. So I'm adding some of that yellow, and I added just a little bit of blue. Now I'm going to take some of that yellow, and when I'm looking at these petals, I want you to do the same and look carefully at them. As you're looking around, you can see some areas are warmer, right over here. But as I'm looking up into this area, you can see that magenta, it warms up. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow over here. And you are going to see as I go along that if you have a chance, really look at some of my other paintings, and you're going to see that when I do florals, actually everything, you will always see that every part of my painting always has some yellow, some blue, and some red. And that stops the painting from looking kind of flat and dull. And those three colors, because those are all the primary colors, they just make a huge difference. So I'm just really lightly going along, and then I'm just going to take my brush and just kind of feather that out. And that area will lighten up a little bit too. So I'm going to get some more on there. And you can already see the difference now. That is what I mean by glow. Just adding yellow and keeping with these three colors, it just, if you really want to know how to get glow, it's the transparent colors. It is using colors that work well together, keeping your colors to three. Even if most artists will keep it to a minimum of 5. So it's that's how you get glow and building those layers. Okay, so, and you know what else I'm going to do? Remember how I was talking yesterday? You might have, hopefully you heard me say that I probably should have just taken that masking fluid that I've got, this Daniel Smith, with the, here, let me see, with that little tip, and just squeezed out some masking fluid on some of these areas. And I even have a free tutorial. It's just on masking, and that has a lot of helpful tips. So let me add a little bit more yellow there. And you know, when you're adding in the yellow, you might have to go over it a couple of times to really get it at a good value. And again, here's what's great about transparent colors is you can keep going over and over and over, and you're not going to lift the previous layers like you do with opaque colors. In fact, that award that I just won, I used 3 colors on that, and I can't tell you how many times I had to keep going over and over that, and I couldn't have done that if those colors were opaque. Okay, so again, I'm just going around and I'm adding in that yellow. And I should mention too, I probably repeat myself, but really it's important. And it's hard when you're watching a tutorial, it's hard to remember everything that you are hearing, all the little tips and advice that I give. But I don't know what I forgot what I was going to say. I'll probably remember in a minute. Somebody tell me what I was going to say, please. Okay, anyhow, I'm just going to keep going around. Oh, my yellow. Yellow is actually your anchor color. It's one of the most important colors as you paint. Yellows, they lean either cool or warm. And I think it's important to get a color that is pretty neutral. And again, this is the yellow I use all the time. It's this, it's the Nickel Azo Yellow PY150. Now, is it as bright as, say, let me take that yellow off. I don't want too much yellow on there because that's a really light area. Okay, cadmium yellow is a brighter yellow and a beautiful yellow, but it's very, very opaque. And when you try to mix it and build layers, it doesn't work really well. It just can muddy really quickly, although it's probably one of the brightest yellows you can use. So again, my yellow isn't as bright as one of those cadmium colors, but obviously when you watch me paint, you can see that my yellows end up being just as bright and glowing as a cadmium. And that's because I always make sure as I'm painting, I'm using contrast, complementary colors, and value to create the illusion of brightness in my yellow. That's not to say that my yellow isn't bright. It is bright, but it's not as bright as, say, a cadmium. But honestly, you can go look at my paintings and you can see that they are just as bright and vibrant as painting with a cadmium yellow. Okay. And building up layers, that also, like my yellow, it may not be saturated enough when I start building in those other colors, but I'll just keep adding little bits at a time till I feel like it's not only as saturated as I want, meaning as bright as those colors can get, but that it's got, the value is correct. So, and that's something that you're watching constantly as you're painting. I love how just adding it over the top, it's really going to add some glow in there. So this is going to be really pretty. Okay, so again, I'm just going around and dropping in every place I see some of these little yellow areas. Now, again, I wish I had have masked some of these out, but I'm going to try, which I don't know how well it's going to work. I'm going to try to go around them a little bit as I'm painting those stripes. I don't know how well that's going to work. I may have to just lift out some of the color. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, let's see, where else? Oh, up in this area. And as you can see right there, I'm going to have to scrub out. I shouldn't have put any yellow in. Let me take that out. So I'm going to have to scrub that out and get that highlight back right there. Kind of lost it a little bit. Okay. Now, it kind of doesn't look like there's any yellow in some of these areas, but the more I keep watching, the more I can see it. And now you can really see that value start to build up. Or I shouldn't say value, I should say that saturation. But obviously we're going to, oops, didn't mean to grab that red. This is going to be a fun little area right here because we're going to make some burnt sienna to put in there. And then I'm going to have to soften that edge there. Okay, so far so good. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my palette so it's a little bit closer to me. And if I hadn't said it before, and anybody that's new and you were wondering why my colors are set up the way they are, whoops, let me get that back over there. That must have moved a little bit. Is yellow's usually at the top of the color wheel, and then it kind of depends on what you're used to or what you were taught if you ever took any art classes. But I usually put my blues to the right and then my reds to the left. And that way, when I'm painting on this round palette, I know what my colors are across from each other. So that's kind of a big help in remembering how your color wheel works. And also, let me grab it here real quick. Keeping your color wheel close by you so you can look and go, oh, okay, so quinacridone magenta right here, its opposite is that beautiful blue-green. And look at how all that harmonizes together. So that's the complementary color. So you always just go right across the color wheel. Right there, and then right there. And then, of course, if my wheel was a little bit better, and then you can draw lines if you want. But I did include that. And if you haven't printed it out, print it out. And it doesn't have to be mine. I think you can get them off the internet. But print them out and cut them out and keep it, and then use that to make a color wheel every time you start a painting. And I promise you, you are going to notice a huge difference because you're actually getting rid of some of the problems before you paint. You're checking your colors to make sure that these colors are going to work well with what you want to paint. There's nothing worse than getting started in a painting and getting frustrated because it didn't work, that the colors just weren't what you wanted. So, okay, let me make that I'm going to make this very, very soft, vibrant green. But it's very light valued, so I'm going to have it really watery. And let's see, let me get my eraser and let's pick up some of those lines, which they don't want to come up really well. I'm trying to roll it, and okay, they came up a little bit. Okay, so let's see. I see some of that down here. Might need to add a little bit more blue. I think I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. I'm using a number 2. I am going to go to a number 0. These are such small areas, I just feel like I'm going to have a little bit more control. And let's see. This is the area that I really love right here. I had to think about that for a minute. In fact, I'm going to go to an even smaller. I'm going to go to a very tiny double-aught brush because I want to get in those beautiful little white, I don't know what you'd call those, little, they almost look like they catch pollen. Maybe they're there for the bees. And let's get a little bit darker color right in there. Okay, let's go. Okay, I know I say not to scrub, but I think I'm going to have to a little bit. And I couldn't figure out why my lines weren't coming off. And then I remembered that I actually wet the whole thing. And for some reason, when you wet your paper, it kind of seals the line. But that's okay. It's more important that you see how I'm painting. Oh, and at the very end, we're going to have a lot of fun. Again, we're going to take that burnt sienna and we're going to go around everywhere. We're going to put in those little spots of, I think, as the petals are starting to fade. Okay, got that. And of course, later on, I'm going to take off that masking fluid so I can finish up those little areas. Okay, I think I'm gonna, ooh, wait, no, right over here. Yeah, I'm gonna darken that up just a little bit. Add more yellow. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop with that and give everybody a chance to catch up. And, oh, wait, one more area right over here. And I'm going to make sure I get that little highlight in there. Okay, so I'm going to stop and let everybody catch up, and I'll see if anybody's had questions and if Shannon has been helping, which I'm sure she has. Tanya said, bright white Arches paper still doesn't look nearly as white as your picture and paper appears. I think because, again, if you've ever painted your house, and so you go to the paint store and you pick some paint, you bring it home and you go, okay, this is nothing like it looked when I was in the paint store. And it's because every single thing around a color affects how that color looks. whether it's a shadow or another object reflecting on it. So when you first get your paper, it doesn't look very bright. It's not until you start really getting those colors on that you see that. So I think that's just a normal phenomenon that happens just in nature and just all around us. And Debbie, what is the difference between making an underlayer with yellow and pillows, petals, and then add pink? Is yellow on top of pink? I am adding the yellow on top of the pink. I could have done that first, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I do that with most of my paintings. But the thing is, there wasn't much yellow on here. There's just a few areas that are yellow, and I didn't want to overdo it and then change the tone of these petals to a warm color. It's mostly a cool magenta, so I wanted to go easy with that yellow, and that's kind of why I put it on second. And, you know, that's also part of painting, is you kind of need to adjust. You don't have to do everything exactly every single painting. You know, look at the painting, see what it's telling you, and, you know, do what feels right at that moment. So for me, I just thought, I'm just going to go ahead and add that yellow in later. And Shannon already kind of answered that, which was a good answer. Yeah, just play around with your paints. And then you say again, Supasia, I'm wondering whether it's a shift between making magenta red versus orange, but I will play with this. And that is, believe it or not, even though that magenta is very cool, it makes an absolute stunning red, as you can see right here. So I know that Quin Magenta, the Phthalo Blue, and the Nickel Azo Yellow are gonna make just absolutely glowing colors. You can see I've got a beautiful orange there and a nice, almost a not a candy apple red, but like a fire engine red. So you can get all those colors that you need out of these three colors. Okay, let's see. Yulia, let's see. As I know, Arches has only one paper color. You can try Sanders, Waterford, or Fabriano. Actually, that's not correct. Arches has two colors. They have the natural white, and then they have bright white. So they do have two different colors for their white paper. So, okay. So hoping everybody had a chance to catch up. And now I think what I'm going to go do is I am going to go and add a little bit more magenta. I'm going to just get that magenta color a little bit more saturated. Then I'm going to start in with the kind of that, the cool blue color, almost blue violet around on the edges. Okay, so I'm going to go back to a bigger brush. I'm using my number 4 again. This time though, I am not going to wet the paper. I'm going to do this wet on dry. I'm just going to move that away, make a clean spot. I don't know quite if I'm going to stick with this number 4 or not. But I'm going to start again down here. What I did was I just rinsed my brush off so I could kind of blend out that color. You know what? I am going to switch. I'm going to go to my number 2. Now you can see we're really building up the saturation and the value. So I just rinsed my brush and I'm just blotting it. Just blending out that color a little bit. And what I'm doing now, it's kind of a feel. You just have to just practice how much water you need on your brush, how thin or thick your paint needs to be. That is something that really just needs to be practiced a lot. And it's kind of part of that learning your paint. You can see I just put in a couple of tiny lines right there on that side. And now I can see over here, it definitely needs a little bit more pink. And again, just light washes, and then I'm just going to blend them out with a damp brush. I'm not going to worry too much about getting close to that edge because you can still see my line where I drew it out. So what I'm going to do is, as we're done, as I finish, I'm going to scrub that line out. And as I'm scrubbing those lines out, it's also going to pick back up some of that, that white area that I've lost a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is, it seems pretty dark, and you know, a lot of what you're seeing could have to do with whether you are watching this on an iPad, your iPhone even, or your type of computer. Sometimes, you know, those computer screens, they're calibrated for certain things. So, and even Shannon had mentioned this yesterday, that it also depends on what kind of TV you have. You might have to look in your settings and adjust it. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm getting, hopefully you can see this, I'm getting some very thick color. I'm just getting some of the paint off the tip, and I'm just gonna go right down that middle, just to darken that color up a little tiny bit. And as I get down here, I'm going to go the other direction because I don't want the paint to make a little bloop at the very end. There we go. All right, I think that looks pretty good. And now while I'm here, I think, what do I think? I think that I want to get those beautiful little dots. I don't want to just put just a dot there. If I put just a dot, it's just going to be, well, here, let's do it. I'm going to show you what I mean. If you're looking at that image actually, those little dots right there, they actually kind of are soft and they have color around them. But look what happens if I just put a dot there. That doesn't look very good. It just looks weird, like it's stuck right on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this when it's dry, and I'm going to wet it lightly. We're going to let it dry, and then I'm going to drop those little dots here and there, and we can do it all in one fell swoop and get them to look like they're blended out. Okay, so I am going to turn this. And again, I'm going to switch. On this one, I definitely need to start off with my number 4. If you're not comfortable painting this way, by all means wet it again, let it dry a little bit, and then start adding in that color. Or you may have been able to get that color in just at the right value. I would rather build just a few layers here and there than have to try to scrub something out. So I'm just kind of varying the paint, the value a little bit. Now I'm going to go to a smaller brush. Now I have my number 2. Just softening that edge. Oh, look at that. I missed all that right there. I let that sit too long, so I got a little bit of water on my brush and I'm just kind of feathering it out. Now you can see how those colors are really starting to stand out. Okay. Getting some kind of dry paint. And that is the effect I want to get over there. That color just spreading out little by little. But I want to make sure it's completely dry before we go back. Just picking up some of the color on that edge right there just to let it blend out a little bit. See, I just keep going back and forth till I get those values where I want them. See, I'm dragging that brush away. Oh, let me move that up a little bit. There we go. Just softening these edges. I can see that I'm going to have to come back in here with a little bit more shadow. And again, that's another great thing about painting with a limited palette. Painting with transparent colors is you can just keep going back over it till you build up those values the way you want. There are some artists that are really good about getting that value down right away. Yeah, that's definitely not me. No matter how long I've been painting, I still have to keep building lots and lots of layers. I'm sticking with this smaller brush in this area. I hear a lot of artists, not a lot, some artists say, you know, use a big brush and just use the point. I can't do that. I really struggle with getting in the details that I like to have in my paintings. So I like to use a small brush. Wow, that flower is really standing out now. Oop, had a little bit too much water there. And I can also see where I'm going to come in and drop some of that purple that I'm going to mix. Okay, it's looking good. Let's turn it again. I'm trying to think of, and I mentioned this yesterday, there are, I don't think they're on PBS anymore, but I actually have one of her books, one of the artists, and wow, she could just, like within 3 layers, just get the color down. And it looks really good, although I just have a really hard time painting that way, just putting that color down immediately. And for some reason, it kind of takes the joy out of painting. I don't paint just to get it done and over with. To me, it's part of that journey. It's part of that fun of building those colors and seeing where things are going. I think things look way too flat when you put all that color on all at once. And isn't that the whole kind of the point of what makes watercolors so interesting, is that when you compare it, and I love oil paint. I think that there's a lot of wonderful oil painters out there, but I don't know, to me, watercolor it's like stained glass. It's just so beautiful, the colors that you can make. See, like right now, you can see how that yellow is kind of coming up through that magenta. It's just looking beautiful. Or at least I think it is. So while I'm just getting in this color, one of my favorite artists, I'll just tell this quick little story, Norman Rockwell. I mean, we all know Norman Rockwell. As he was creating his paintings, he would look outside and he would holler out at the milkman or the little boy going by on his skateboard, or just, a lady out strolling, going to go get her groceries. And he would ask them to come in and look at his images. And he would say, "Don't tell me what you like, tell me what's wrong with it." And I never forgot that. I just thought that that was absolutely amazing, that he thought it was more important that he didn't have a bunch of people telling him how great it was, but what something needed. I never forgot that. I thought that was really interesting. And maybe that's why his art is so full of life. The way he paints his people, his subjects. He's just amazing. Okay, I think I am good there. Just kind of blending that out a little bit. Okay. Gonna turn it again. I did add a little bit of water there. If you're not sure about something that I'm doing, please post a question and I'll try to get to it sometimes. And this is all part of also learning how to teach, is that sometimes, and you know, I think it's this way when you drive a car and you go a certain place every day, and then you're just sometimes you're on autopilot. So I have to really think carefully about making sure that I keep telling you what I'm doing. But, you know, sometimes I do get on autopilot and I'll grab water or rinse my brush and I forget to say what I'm doing. So let me know if you have questions. Wow, look at that dark line right there. See, I'm already thinking ahead too. I'm looking that area right there going, oh yeah, that's gonna take a lot of purple to get that value, to darken up that value. See how I'm trying to vary all the colors. I don't want it real flat. So I just rinsed my brush and softening those lines with a damp brush. Oh, this is really, it's looking lovely. I need to soften up this area a little bit. I think the fun part is going to be when we put in all those little dots. That's going to really make it stand out. Okay, one more petal to go. And then I'm going to stop and I'll answer questions, or I'm sure Shannon's completely on top of that for me. Okay, here we go. Okay, I just rinsed my brush. I didn't hit it with the paper towel, but it's a bigger area, so I have a little bit of wiggle room here. You know, I just love, sometimes technology, as you heard me earlier, sometimes I really hate technology. Sometimes I want to go back, you know, back when things were a lot simpler. But then again, there's these wonderful things about technology where we can all share this together. How great is that? Whoops. It's just, I love that. I love that we can use technology to join together and do something fun. Let's see. Let's try to scrub out, or not scrub out, I'm just going to try to soften some of that color up there. I'm going to go back to my number 2. See, now that you go over it a couple layers, by the time you do that, the sizing kind of starts, you start removing some of the sizing, and it's a little bit easier for the color to sink in, and you're able to blend it out a little bit better. Now, while I'm painting, I'll let you know, I'm thinking about those beautiful little dots, and I'm thinking about whether or not I want to put the dots on first, then go over with a little bit of that blue-violet, or put the blue-violet on first. But I'm thinking if I put those dots on first and then go back over with that blue-violet, it'll actually even help blend them out a little more. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. And I can see I'm going to have to scrub out right in that area, but that's all going to be towards the end. Okay, I'm going to flip it back around so we can get a good look at it. What is the, oh, okay, so there's just some stuff. I think it's probably from my shirt right there, but that's just the masking fluid. Okay, so let me turn it around. Turn my image around. That is just looking really good. And wait till we get those dots in. I think it's going to be fabulous. All right, so I'm going to let you guys catch up, and I'm going to look and see what everybody's been talking about. Oh, Yulia. Oh, so I didn't know about arches. Arches, you're supposed to say. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. Yep, 2 colors, natural white and bright white. And Sherry says, that's me, too much color too fast, and that's why I'm watching you. Water control is a must. It is. And I can tell you how to do it. This just totally was not dark enough, but it's just one of those things where you just have to do it. You just have to practice with that color. You have to practice with the water. It's kind of like, I guess, would be riding a bike, might be similar. It's just you have to do it, and you have to keep doing it. There, that's better. Now, as I'm looking at this, I feel like those values are pretty good. I'm looking at my image and I'm looking at the paper. Ooh, see, now I can see up here where I did not get enough of that dark value in there. So I'm just going over it. I'm going to blend it out a little bit. It's funny how you can be just staring at something and working on it and you still can't see it. Again, over here, a little bit. I really want those gorgeous stripes to really just kind of come out from the center. So that's why I'm darkening them up a little bit. Okay, I think I'm going to let this dry. And it's actually good for me to check for questions, because then I'm looking away from it. And if you've watched my other live streams and tutorials, you know that I like to get up and move and get away from it so that I can just see it, you know, with some clean eyes, new eyes. Okay, let's see. Oh, Shannon's telling Tanya they may have sold you the wrong thing. Yeah, that could be. That's why I always order my paper from Dick Blick, and I'm not, you know, I'm not shilling for them or anything. I just like that I know how they prepare their paper, and I trust that when my paper gets to me, it's going to be nice and clean and without smudges on it. And I know that they care a lot about how they prep their paper and getting the correct paper to me. Oh, Sherry, she's got to pause now and finish later. That's okay. We'll have it as a replay. So I can't wait to see what you do, Sherry. So have fun on the rest of your day. And Carol, just logging on. I'm watching live and I'll go back. Okay. It's looking beautiful, Debbie. Thank you. All right. So I think I'm going to go ahead and hit this with my hair dryer. And again, trying to avoid that area and keeping my hands away from that. And then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put those dots in. Then we're going to put in some more of those shadow, any area that I missed a shadow, and any area that needs a little bit of that darker bluish purple. You'll also notice that as you are building layers, as you add water or paint, it dries much quicker and it doesn't sink into the paper as much. So now your colors are getting closer to the surface of the paper, so it doesn't take as long to dry it. So that's kind of a nice thing. Okay, so I'm going to start down with this little area. And I'm going to start putting in those dots. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wet it. And as you can see, nothing's lifting, nothing's moving. Okay, I'm going to take a very tiny brush. What am I going to use here? My 0. I'll use my 0. Okay, and while I'm letting that sink in, oops, I missed some areas. Yikes. Just like I said, it starts drying much quicker as you're building layers. Okay. Again, with just, actually, I'm going to come over here. I'm adding a little bit of yellow because those little dots are actually, they're almost a dark red, dark reddish orange. Okay. I think it's still too wet. And here's what you're going to want to do. Make sure that that sheen kind of goes off of the paper. I'm going to keep watching it, and then you want to make sure that there's not too much paint on the tip of your brush. I'm going to go ahead and try it and see what happens. Now, Here's the trick. So I hope you're stopping and you're paying attention to what I'm going to say here. If you want those circles to really spread out, then make sure your paint's watery. If you want those dots to stay there but have a nice soft edge, make sure your paint is thick. That's all about water control. How much water is on that paper and how thick that paint is. So I'm using really thick paint, and can you see how, well, let me pull it up. Let me move this up very close. There we go. Can you see how those dots are kind of spreading out now? They're not going real far, but they are getting that nice soft edge that I want. So my water is exactly where I want it. I was grabbing from the wrong, I was grabbing from my quinacridone magenta. That didn't help much, did it? Except for right here. I noticed that it's okay. Want this a little bit lighter. And these are going to lighten up too a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to rinse my brush a little bit. I just hit that one spot right there with some water. Now I'm coming back in some darker color, so it's a little bit bigger. I think my paper, it really started drying quickly, so let's, I'm going to hit that with just a little bit more water. There we go. Same over here. So I was looking at this and I didn't think I've got enough red under here. Looked a little too yellow, so I'm just adding some more magenta right over the top there. And you can see that my dots are still staying there. Okay, so I can let that one dry. Wait. No. Let's add a little one right here so it's not so even, but it's also going to help when we soften that edge. Okay, I love that. Okay, so now let's turn it to the side and let's do this flower and let's see what questions we've got. If I'm able to do if I were to do a background for this, what would it be? I would probably take a grouping of lilies with those gorgeous leaves, and I would make a background that was very out of focus and maybe with an area of maybe light right in there. So yeah, you could still do a background if you'd like. And maybe I might do that in a tutorial too, is do one with the background and without. Okay, back to, let me turn that a turn. Okay. I'm not worried about that water leaking over here. It's not going to affect anything. Now this one has a lot of little dots. So I want to make sure that everything is nice and wet, and this time kind of want it to get sunk in a little bit more than I did right there. In fact, I'm gonna there we go. I just didn't want all those dots being the same size. I wanted them to kind of be varied a little bit. There we go. Okay. Oh, I think I missed a couple of areas. Oh, no, I didn't. It was just the water's just sitting on the top of the paper. Now these ones right here are a little bit warmer, those little dots. Okay. Deciding, should I wait a little bit? All right. I'll be honest, this part is, doing this kind of stuff is a little bit nerve-wracking to me because I don't always get it right with how much, watching exactly how much water's on the paper. Sometimes I misjudge. But I think it's helping. Now I'm going to rinse my brush off a little bit because these ones down here are lighter. I grabbed a little bit of that blue. They were a little bit lighter and more purple down here. That probably needs to sink in more. Okay, I think I need to give it a sec. So let's see if there's any questions while I'm giving that a minute. Shannon, that does make it look better. Yeah, that really added a lot, and it also is just with the illusion of those dark dots, it kind of is darkening the value of those leaves too, all at the same time. So yeah, I think it's looking really good. Oh, Carol, I think those orange things are actually pollen. I blew up the picture and zoomed in real close. Yeah, you're right, they are pollen. And I'm just, while I'm thinking and talking and painting, you're absolutely right, it's pollen. Let's see. And Debbie says, it was said before, but I love how you think out loud. It makes a difference when learning. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I get worried I'm just blabbering, but yeah, I think it does help. And then, oh, Debbie, okay, Shannon also asked if your stems look dull and I added a bit too much magenta to the green yesterday, do you think if I went over it again with a more vibrant green, it would fix my issue? Most likely. Another thing that you could do is wait till the very end and you could scrub it out. So you may just wait, hold off on that till we get towards the end of this. But yes, you could do that. I'm just fixing those, making those lines a little bit darker right there. Okay, now, again, got some dark, or I've got some thick paint, and now I can go ahead and just drop in some of these little dots. And remember, as you're putting the dots down, you're also picking up water from the paper. So you may need to get that water off of your brush. You know, it's funny. That actually ended up being an excellent effect because I put those dots on there while my paper was really wet. You can see that they almost made that little shadow that those little, they're not dots, they're like these little things that stand up on the lily. And wow, that looked really cool. It was kind of a happy accident. I'm going to add a little, grab a little bit of that blue. Okay. Oh, that was too big, but okay. Back to some red. Okay, there's some tiny ones up here. Okay, let's turn it around. While I'm doing that, I might as well come over here and wet this area. That way I won't have to stop and wait. Yep. And see, this is where you learn something, or at least I am. I think it was better. I think these ones came out better than these ones did because the paper was a little bit more saturated. So all those little dots kind of ran a little bit and added those shadows behind there. So now I know I'm just going to let it stay a little bit wetter. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens over here. It's pretty wet, so I might let it just for, we'll let it go for a second. I could try one. With some really, really dry color. No, you know what? I think this is actually good. Yeah, I think that's much better. So, okay, I'm using very thick paint. And it's actually pretty wet. It's going to be hard with that, that kind of a violet, blue violet, because that paint, it's really thin because I just mixed it. I like that much better. I think that worked out a little bit better. Yep, I like that better. Much better. They just are all blending out nicely. Okay, let's try these little guys. Yeah, if I don't get that pollen all perfect, I'm okay with that. Oh, see, this is, let me add some more water over here, this little area. That really sunk in there. And see, my little dots are still there. Okay. Let me first add some more red right in this little spot right there. Now again, if I were doing this and I was wanting to really spend a lot of time on it, this might take me all day just getting these little dots in. Bumps, dots. Okay, let's see. Debbie, what size is your paper? It is, I think this is 10 by 10. But because it's a square, you can actually make it any size you want because it's a 1:1 ratio. Oh, looking good. This is looking really pretty. And at this point, I think what I'll do too is I'm going to go around, add that blue violet around the edges, and then I'm going to take off that masking fluid. We will finish the little stamens and scrub out on the sides. Okay. All right, so let's... Yeah, really, what I should have done is just taken a tiny bit of masking fluid and masked out those little bits of pollen. But is that a make or break? I don't think so. So I guess, you know, that's something for you too. If you want to put in that little pollen, you can. It's going to be a lot of work, so I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. We're going to have to see. And one more. Okay, there we go. Give it a second. While I'm waiting, let's turn it this way. Oh wow, look at that. Boy, that really made those petals jump. And Debbie's asking, not seeing what pollen you are looking at, please specify, thanks. So as you can see right on the little stamens, there's a ton of pollen, and some of it's actually dropped onto the petals. And it's just like these little tiny yellow-orange flecks. Although, because I didn't mask any of those out, they're kind of hard to see, but you know, I don't know if we'll have enough time, although it is only 10:30, but I want to make sure that this time we get to, that you see me scrubbing out those edges and those highlights. So if I have time at the end, I might try to get those back in, but if not, we're going to leave them out. I'm going to, while I'm here, just adding in those lines. Oops, see? I did exactly what I told you not to do. Okay, let's fix that right there. There we go. Okay. Again, very thick paint. It's true, you really could spend all day just getting all these little guys just lined up correctly. And you can see I didn't go up and get a lot of color in there. I should have done a little bit better job at that. Okay. Maybe try to get that line in a little bit. There we go. All right, let's turn it over and see what it looks like. Ah, nice. Wow, that really makes it stand out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and see one little guy that should have gone right there. Whoop, everything's dry. Let everything dry, and then I'm going to put in that blue-violet color. And that's going to really help it. Okay, so let me stop for a minute. And Shannon was talking about another way, which using opaque or semi-opaque paint. But as I'm drawing, I'm sitting here thinking, you know what? Actually, what I could do is use my Dremel tool, just nick out all those little areas and then just drop the yellow right on top of them. So I think I'll do that. Okay. Oh, Shanlyn's got to go. Okay, well, I can't wait to see how your painting looks. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a very beautiful blue violet. I'm actually going to use, yep, I think that'll do. Very pretty. All right. I'm using I'm putting this on dry paper. I didn't wet it. Maybe even a little bit more blue. I think at the same time, I'm going to take a little bit of that blue I just created, that blue violet. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to that. And there we go. Now I've created a very, very warm, neutral gray that I can use in areas that I missed. Okay, now I'm going to go back. Just adding that purple or that blue violet in where I see it. Using some water to let it blend out. And that really, really brought out some of that color, much better. And like I said, I'm definitely going to do, right after this, I will be doing some scrubbing. That's definitely going to have to be softened. So I've definitely got some scrubbing to do, but so far so good with that, adding in that purple. Now it doesn't feel flat. Okay, so I'm going to turn it again. And again, I'm not going to worry about little edges because I'll start softening that point. Now you can really see how it's adding depth. Wait. Just getting that little shadow area. Sorry, I got that off screen a little bit. Oh, I'm glad I didn't decide to take the masking fluid off first. I was really debating that. Oop. Okay. Wow, this is turning out really good. Very happy with this. Oop, almost running out. Boy, I timed that just right, or planned that just right. So I'm grabbing a little bit of that blue, just because that area along that side is a little bit cooler. So I just dropped some of the plain blue in there. And I think I'm going to do it in this area right here too. So I just grabbed that color, laid it down, and then went right over with water to soften the edge. Okay, now let's turn it around. Wow. So hopefully you can see now, just with those three colors, everything I got in there, I really have gotten a lot of depth. And I'm thinking it's looking really good. So what I'm going to do is I am going to dry it, and I'm going to remove the masking fluid, and then we are going to go ahead and get those in, and I'm going to make a lovely little area of burnt sienna with some yellow areas and some darker areas, and boy, wait till you see how that's going to stand out. All right, we're getting down to the final details, and I need to get, okay, I'm gonna take a break for just a sec. I need to get my rubber tool to remove the masking fluid, and I want to change my water and get some clean water. Okay, got some clean water. And I've got my rubber cement pickup tool. All right, so here we go. Let's get that masking fluid off. Okay, so I've noticed that definitely does not come off as easy as the Winsor & Newton, or it's another brand I use. I just can't think of the name right now. When you're taking your masking fluid off too, if you're using it, make sure you feel around with your fingers so you don't leave any little pieces behind. All right, there we go. So you can see I did not do, I did a terrible job at masking, but I was trying out that Daniel Smith, and it had a lot of bubbles in it, and the bubbles kept squirting out, so I had a lot of trouble with that. But I'm glad I went ahead and took it off now. So what I'm going to do, I think I'll go ahead and straighten those lines out. Okay. Maybe a little bit more red instead. There we go. Much better. Okay, so at least I know that this is completely fixable. And here's a little area I need to add some of that red in. Everything else looks, I think, okay. Got a little area right there. Okay, so I fixed that little guy. And let's see. right along here. Okay, that's a little better. Oh, I think I need a little bit. Sharpen that edge right there. Okay. I don't think I'm going to see it much once I get that color in. So before I do that though, let me get out the scrubbers. And let's fix, well, first let's get rid of some of my spots. Oh, I have a lot of red in that. Hang on here. Okay. I'm using my bigger scrubber brush, my number 6. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go to my smaller one. I should have been a little bit more careful with those lines. And let's see, now back to that thicker one. So I really want to get rid of everything right in that area. Just using my paper towel. Just soften that edge there. And back to a smaller one. There, see how I just got that, just really pulled that highlight out there. Now I'm going to use it just right down this little area right here where I kind of lost some of that lighter color. Much better. So I'm just going to go around where I see I've lost some little highlights, and that's really going to help too. I'm going to switch to the one I made. It's got a nice, from the oil brush. And right here in this middle, let's soften all that up. already you can see those highlights starting to pop. Debbie's asking, will that scrubber take the graphite line out also, or just the paint edges? No, it will actually take out the graphite. Normally I try to roll over it with my my kneaded eraser, but it's really hard for you to see where I'm painting if my lines are really faint. So once I kind of get out some of these highlights, oh, that's bugging me right there. There we go. That's better. Let's soften that edge just a little bit more. There we go. Now, hopefully you can see how what I'm doing is just coming into that edge a little bit and just making it look feathered. Hopefully you can see how that is really getting those highlights in that little center area right there. And to me, this is where everything finally starts to come together, is when you build those darker values and then you pull out any highlights you've lost. I'm using lots of water and then lifting off that paint after I'm done. Just softening edges. Okay, now I'm going to turn it again. Oop. Let me use a softer brush. The other thing that the scrubber brush does is it just kind of softens those edges. Now, I know when we were painting and we were doing that first layer yesterday, I had said that make sure you have nice lines so the edges don't look ragged, excuse me. But there's a big difference between ragged edges and softened edges, so keep that in mind. Going back to a smaller brush. Boy, I completely lost that edge along there. And as you can see, I'm pulling up a little bit of the paper, but really not much at all. And that's one of the other reasons why I love 300-pound paper, is because I do not have to worry about the paper just getting completely ragged, which happens sometimes when you use 140-pound. Look at how it just brought that edge out. Oh, now I need my tiny one. Okay, and I lost a little line right here. So I just looked up and Shannon was asking a question about the order in which I layer and how when I pull color up, what it reveals. I'm so glad she asked that, because you know what, that is actually huge. I don't think he is alive anymore, but there's a painter. His name was Zoltan Szabo, and he was all about tricks. Tips and tricks, like using scrubber brushes to build your skies and make clouds. And he would use opaque colors, but he had a really cool way of doing wood, like an old wood fence. So what he would do is he would do an undercoat with a very staining color, and then the coat on top would be an opaque color, and then he would scrub out the highlight areas, yet you would still be able to see the bottom. And that's kind of where I really went, aha, that's interesting. How much farther can you carry this? I loved it. It was so smart. But yeah, he loved using tools to create effects. And so that was one of the things he did. And I always tried to take a lot from every artist, and whether they're books or their workshops. And that's what I got from Zoltan Szabo. I was really impressed with how he did that. Let me turn this a little bit. So now look at the difference between this area over here and this area. You can just see how It's just soft, everything's soft, yet you can still see some of the edges. I have like an edge over here that I kind of allowed to just be lost. This is why I don't panic over losing some of my whites. You can see I've gained, you know, the majority of them back. Now back to this and just kind of come in a little bit on the edges. Boy, I completely lost it over here, didn't I? Okay, Shannon's asking me to scroll up on the comments, so I'm going to do that real quick. Is there a way to zoom in closer when you were doing some of your scrubber work? I could, but that means I have to move, well, I'm going to show you where my hands are. So my camera is like right up here, so then I have to readjust it. And I suppose I could try to do that. That might work. Let's see. Seema, do you ever use white gouache watercolor ink for the highlights? No. I did when I first started painting, but I just find it easier just to scrub things out. And that way I don't have to worry about a bottle of gouache going, you know, getting dry, or a tube of it. So there was one that I used to use, which was Dr. P.H. Martin's, and I really liked that. But it dried up really fast. So I got tired of having to try to save it. But yeah, you know what? I don't think there are really any rules. I mean, whatever you want to use, you know, as long as it works and you're happy with it. Oh, you do like the Lost Edge. Yeah, and thank you, Shannon, talking about cleaning up the edges. Yeah, that makes a huge, huge difference. Let's see, let me switch back to here because you can really see that I really lost some of the whites there. I don't know, you know, there are a lot of ways to do it, but there's nothing wrong with using gouache. Although I will tell you this, if you enter into watercolor competitions, be careful. Because some of them, if you use anything other than watercolors, you can get disqualified. And, you know, maybe that's not a big deal, but I think it's kind of, silly because I consider gouache a watercolor media. Okay, let's, this area right here could actually be a lot darker. Right in here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bigger one and kind of lighten this area up a little bit. There, that really gave it a glow, didn't it? So your highlights are really, they're just as important as your dark values. Okay. Oh, I'm getting so excited. Once this is finished, then we're going to do those, we're going to make some of that, burnt sienna. And I just want to let you know, instead of doing another live stream, what I'm going to do is, if it takes me going over, you know, by 10 or 15 minutes or even whatever it takes, I'm just going to stay with this until I'm finished. I just think that would be much easier. And if you have to go, obviously you can come back and watch it. I just think that'd be much easier than doing a whole nother live stream, having to set up for it. This is just much easier. We're getting very close to the end. We've softened all the edges, and you can really see what a difference that's made. Okay, now I'm going to do the same. I'm going to just pull a little bit more color out of there. And look at that. The power of scrubber brushes. Look at how it just looks light. That's just beautiful. Now I'm going to pull out just a little bit more. Oh, that one's not working very well. I'll go back to my oil one. I'm so happy with that. That looks really good. So now I need to, right in here, it kind of feels like this is sitting under a dappled tree, and you can just see these little tiny bits of light coming through. Well, let's see. Let's go back to this brush. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit, turn it back around. And let's turn my image around. Okay, so I think that's looking really good. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's mix up some, and I'm going to scoot this close. Let's get some of that burnt sienna mixed. This is what happens when your color dries. It's hard to get a really, really thick, dark value. Now, a tiny bit of blue. More yellow. Okay, so there we've got a really, really dark burnt sienna. Then we've got one over here that's a little bit more on the red side. And so we've got a few different little mixtures going on in there. Let me get a little bit more yellow right over there. Okay, so now we've got some burnt sienna that has some different values and colors going on in there. All right, that's going to be perfect. Okay, make sure I don't have any water sitting anywhere. So I am going to use a very small brush. Let me... The great thing about mixing your own burnt sienna when you're painting with a limited palette is you can make it any color you want. So if you can kind of see down there that I added some yellow. Look at how that really stands out. It's just those little details that make such a difference. Can you see what a difference it made? Just adding those little tiny dark areas. I gotta find somewhere to make a little bit of green. There we go. Okay. Oh, I've got some of that running over into my blue. Yikes. Okay. There we go. Okay. Just going to add some little light dots here and there. Oh, and right. Oh. I don't know what's going on, but all of a sudden I've been invaded by tiny ants. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see. Oh, this gorgeous little area right there. Okay, I think I've found most of the little dots here and there. Oop. So putting just a few of those right around the edges of those parts of the leaves that have, they're really fading. All right, so now let's go ahead and start doing the little stamens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet it first. Wow, that really made it stand out. See, now I'm going to grab a little bit of red. So I can really make that burnt sienna just pop. And look at that. It just, now it's really looking three-dimensional. I love getting to these, the final details. Just love it. Look at that. It just really made that come forward. Okay. Oh. Rinse my brush. Let's do this one right here. So I just had quite a bit of water. I just dropped it right on top there. Just let those colors kind of flow together. Okay, now let's do this one. I think it's so awesome that you can pretty much mix any color that you need with just those few colors. Okay, Shannon is saying the camera focus on your painting seems off to me a bit. Is anyone else experiencing? It may be our internet connection. It probably is because I am looking at it on my screen and it looks pretty clear. In fact, let me put my hand there and it's very sharp and clear. So it might be your screen or your internet connection. Okay, now this little guy, and I have to be careful I don't, oop. Okay, wow. Okay, I have 2 more to finish. So I think I'm going to turn this around. So I'm just dropping in yellow, and then I'm dropping in the quinacridone magenta and the burnt sienna. Must have accidentally grabbed a lot of red. Just added a little bit more of that phthalo blue. So I could get some nice dark areas and make them really stand out. All right, let's turn that back around and see how it looks. Oh, wow. Just look at that. Wow, this turned out really good. Okay, so let's see, a couple of questions. Let's see, Debbie A asked, do I have a link for the scrubbers? Yes, I can add it into everything that describes this link, or if you got all the downloads, there's also a link on one of those downloads for all the supplies. All you have to do is click on it and it will bring you right over to Dick Blick Scrubbers. And then, yes, you can paint over your scrubbed areas again. Usually what I do is I will take a plastic spoon and I will rub over the area, and then I can completely paint over it again. And I have done that quite often in a painting. Okay, let me just get that. That's bugging me. It's a little. Okay, there we go. All right, so now all I need to do is, we got those beautiful little, I really should learn the official names. I'm not sure. Okay, wait, I am sure. This is the stamen and this is the pistil. So, okay, so I've got all the pistils in. Now I need to do the stamens. But what I'm going to do is I am going to go grab some clean water so we get some nice, beautiful, very, very light valued, fully saturated greens. So I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back, got some clean water. All right, so I want to talk about the scrubbing that I've been doing. I actually had a painting, it's sold now, but I still have it on my website and I sell prints of it. But I had almost finished it and it was just spectacular. And on one lower area, I was really struggling with that out of focus background because I was having to add in out of focus irises. It was an iris painting. And believe it or not, I used a giant scrubber this size and it took me hours and I scrubbed that whole area out. Then I took the back of a plastic spoon and I pressed it all down after it was dry. And I went ahead and did my out of focus background. And that is where I discovered that it was actually a good thing that I had scrubbed it out, because all that scrubbing helped make that background just really out of focus on that area. So it actually turned into a good thing and I learned a lot from it, but you can't do that with 140-pound paper. It just does not take to scrubbing well at all. And I'm not sure about other brands because I'm very spoiled. Well, I should say more like lazy, that I don't want to take the effort to try another kind of paper. I really should, but yeah, I just one of those things where you get used to something. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab some nice clean yellow. Might have been too much. I'm going to grab a hair of that, just a tiny bit of that blue. Well, that wasn't a tiny bit, was it? Okay, let me pick up some of that. Okay, that's what I want. I want a very, very light green. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, let me see. You know, that is such a weird looking end to that. It's part of that stamen, that little thing. You know, looking at it, I probably should have taken it out, but I am just on the very top here, just mixing up a quick gray so I can block that in. Okay, there we go. Kind of looks out of place there, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so now back to the stem. Just grabbing a tiny amount of that green, just running it up right along the side. That part's actually kind of gray, so I just dulled it down a little bit. I picked some of that gray up. That was just kind of green up at the top, and then I'll grab some of that gray that I just made. Again, if I was doing this, I would have had all these colors saved, but yeah, there's just no room. Okay, let's wet this little area. Beautiful. Just kind of going around now, and everywhere I see where there might be a little bit more green, kind of softening up that area. Trying to get a little, oh gee, oh, okay. I was just trying to get a little bit, I wish I still had some of my gray, but that's okay. I'm pretty happy with this. This looks really good. Oh, I hope all of you saw what Shannon just wrote. She goes, Brian, ex-agricultural education teacher, came in and said, wow, those pistils are incredible and really bring it to life. That's beautiful. So I was right, they were pistils. Yes, it looks very good. I'm very happy with it. Except for, I just noticed I accidentally Got some color outside of that area. Okay. Wow. All right. I'm pretty excited. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to get that little area in there again. Just not sure what it is, but it's in there, and so just kind of adding to it. Just adding in a little bit more green, and especially right up at the tops. Oh, I forgot this little guy. I think that came out really good. I'm really happy with this. I can't wait to see what everybody else has done. Okay, so at this point, I think what I am going to do is, what am I going to do? I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference if we're going to be able to see it, but I'm going to try it anyhow. I'm going to get my Dremel tool. The tip I have on this is kind of a rounded, it's like a sandpaper tip almost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hit, let's see. I'm going to hit some of those areas with a little white and see what happens. And then add in the yellow. So I just kind of made those little things that are sticking up. I should use a smaller tip on to finish those off. But let's see. So now that I've done that, let's take some of that yellow. And I'm going to drop it right where I just scrubbed out. And look at that. Okay, I'm going to pull this close up. Can you see how it added the yellow on there? I don't know how much of a difference it made, but I think it helped. Okay, let's see what Shannon says. Does the petal curled under on the lower left need a tiny bit of shadow on the lower left? Right there? Is that what you're talking about? I do have some shadow there, but I can add in some more. Ah, yes. There's a little bit just like this. That's too much. Okay, I really like how this is working, so I'm going to do a few more. Let's do a couple more right there. And let's get a couple right in there. And some right in there. Okay, a few more. Okay. I don't know why, but that's so fun. It is funny, isn't it, using a Dremel tool, but you know, it works. Okay, look at that. Okay. Oops, I got a big thing. And there we go. Saved the day. Dremel tools are awesome. I got the idea. We were up in Montana and we were at this fly fishing ranch. And I walked in and I was looking at their art and I was just absolutely amazed that the painter had somehow managed to make it so that his subject was throwing a very long fly line, and he had scratched it out with an X-Acto knife, and I thought, wonder if I could do that with a Dremel tool, and you know, on my own stuff. And so now I use that if I lose edges or just any other thing other than my scrubber brushes, and it works. In fact, let me change tips and I'll feather those little edges out a little bit more. Okay, so here's all my different tips. So I'm actually going to use this teeny tiny little tip. Wait, let me get the thing out of the way here. So let's put it in the white spot so you can see how tiny it is. So I'm going to switch that out. Okay, there we go. Now I can really get those lines in. Hopefully you can see them. See where I just put them in? And then I can get a really fine one right here. Just be really careful if you decide to do this, but it sure does make a huge difference when you've lost some white areas. But again, don't do this with 140-pound paper, because you will go right through it. Okay, I think that's good. All right, I'm pretty darn happy with that. Okay, so let's see. Christine's asking. Hi, Christine. Let's see. Is that small tip metal or like the other one? Okay, so there's a couple of different types. This one is metal. It's almost like a little sandpapery tip. You just have to go. You can either go online or you can just look in like Home Depot or Lowe's, and they usually have a huge selection of tips that you can peruse through and find whatever one's going to work the best. Actually, I just noticed something else. Okay, let's make that a little bit longer, and then there's one over there. There we go. Okay, all right. Now I'm happy, so I think this looks really good. I like how I was able to pull that out, and you can see I've got the yellow right back in there. So I think I'm going to call this done. I think it turned out really, really good. Again, if I were doing this on my own, it probably would have taken me 3 or 4 days, and I would have really gotten in there, and I would have actually painted in those little tiny hairs that you see all over, but that would be a lot of detail. But you can. I mean, the whole point of my tutorials is to teach you how to paint with these 3 colors so that you intuitively start learning how to make mixes. And instead of worrying about what colors on that big massive palette you have, what colors that you need to use, and then what happens is your head is focusing on that, and it's really hard to start focusing on value and saturation when you're too focused on trying to find the right colors. So that's why I paint with the 3 colors. But you don't have to paint the way I do, and there's lots of different ways to get the color down. There's all kinds of things that you can do. You can paint, wet on dry, wet on wet. I mean, there's so many different ways to paint that it doesn't have to be the way I paint. I just am trying to teach that simplifying your palette is the way that you can end up learning just how to build harmony in your paintings. You can be very skilled at all kinds of methods, but if you don't have harmony in your painting, and if you don't have good values and good colors, then it doesn't, then you won't get that punch when you're working on your painting. So there you go. That's it. I think I am done with this. I'm very happy. Again, I could probably go in and put all those little tiny shadows in, but honestly, I think it looks good just like this. I'm really happy with all those values, and so I think somebody had said something about you had too much red. So you could either scrub that area out or keep going over it with more green and more yellow, and you will tone that red down. So let's see what else. Yeah, I feel like the leaves are good. I decided not to mess with them anymore. I think they're fine. They're not the focus like this Stargazer Lily is. So I think I'm good. And can you believe it? It's 11:56. Wow, that worked out perfect this time. I really felt like this one flowed. And Zupasia, it looks absolutely spectacular. It does. I know you were saying earlier it was funny I was using the Dremel tool, but look what it did. That was pretty awesome. I ended up being able to save those little areas with the pollen, so I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so I'm gonna switch back forward now. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty happy. Let's see what it looks like when we hold it up this way. Of course, yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So again, I have, you guys can post, if you didn't finish, post it on the Facebook group, or post it in, in the community in my watercolor website. I'm getting a little 3 hours of talking and painting. So I want to see what everybody managed to do. I'm pretty happy with this. I think it was a lot of fun, and hopefully you all learned a lot of stuff. And Christine is saying another great tutorial. Thanks, Debbie. You're welcome, Christine. It was actually a lot of fun. I really felt like this one flowed from the first moment I started it to the end here. And I'm actually surprised. We did all this in 6 hours, and I think it just turned out great. So it was a lot of fun. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and fire them now. I'll hang on for another minute or two. And I'm going to, while waiting for any questions, any last questions, I'm going to film down again. And if you have, so you can look at it and see what we've got so far. But I really like all the little dots. I'm going to hold this up a little bit closer so you can really see how well those little dots really blended out once I did it over the wet paper. And you can actually really see where I put the yellow. I actually forgot to put the yellow there, but you can see what that did. So put it back down. And if you didn't get that in all those little the little pollen, it's not really a big deal. I think it looks good either way. And so Melissa says, great tutorial. And Amalia, thank you, Debbie, best class. Oh, okay, you guys are all welcome, and this is a lot of fun. And again, please post all your paintings so that we can see them. And this was a great tutorial, so I am going to sign off now, and then I'm going to figure out what my next tutorial is going to be. So, all right, everybody, thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the next tutorial. And you're welcome, Seema. We'll see you guys soon. Let's see.